Maylord or bride rode through the storm to meet the cowboy who had been praying for her. The sky over the frontier planet Riven 7 burned with streaks of red and gold, the remains of a dying sun reflecting off jagged mountains and icy plains. Winds whipped across the barren landscape, carrying dust and shards of frozen rock, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled over the cliffs. Riven 7 was not a gentle place, but for those who called it home, it was a place of opportunity, a land where humans could carve their own lives from raw nature. Leela Everhart sat in the cockpit of her small starship, the Starlight Runner, her hands moving over the worn controls with ease. She had flown across dozens of star systems, braved asteroid storms, and fixed more engines than she could count. But this trip felt different. The message she had received a week ago, encrypted and simple, had followed her through the black void of space like a whisper she could not ignore. I pray for someone strong, someone human, clever, unafraid. If you read this, come to Riven 7. I will wait. It was unsigned, but the sender had included coordinates and a simple sketch of a rugged ranch house, surrounded by fields of strange blue grass that shimmered under the alien sun. Something about it struck her. She had learned long ago that the universe rarely gave signs for free, but sometimes a human instinct was enough. And Leela's instinct was screaming that this message was meant for her. She adjusted the ship's course, her eyes scanning the screens. Sensors showed violent plasma storms in the path ahead. Normally, she would have waited them out, but the pull of the message, of something she could not yet name, made her press forward. "Hang on, Starlight," she muttered to the ship. "We're in for a bumpy ride." Outside, the storms were more violent than the sensors predicted. Bolts of lightning danced through thick clouds, and swirling winds threatened to rip the ship from its path. Leela gritted her teeth and flipped switches, rerouting power from the secondary thrusters to the shields. The ship shuddered under the assault, alarms beeping, but she kept her calm. Panic never helped anyone survive. She remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell her, stories of the old Earth pioneers who rode through deserts and blizzards to claim a life of their own. This is no different, she thought. Just stars instead of deserts, plasma instead of sand. Hours passed as she fought her way through the storm. The stars outside flickered like distant candles, and for a moment the universe seemed impossibly vast and lonely. But then a faint signal appeared on her sensors, another ship, long abandoned, drifting through the storm. Its lights were dead, its hull scarred, but it was a reminder of what could happen to those who turned back. Leela shivered, not with fear but with determination. Finally, the storm broke. The clouds parted just enough to reveal the surface of Riven 7, and Leela's breath caught. Below, stretching as far as the eye could see, were rolling plains of blue grass, dotted with strange, metallic structures and jagged rock formations. And in the middle of it all, a small ranch house sat against the horizon, smoke curling from its chimney. She adjusted the landing thrusters and began her descent. Even as the Starlight Runner shuddered in the turbulent atmosphere, Leela felt a thrill of anticipation. The message had been real. Someone was waiting for her. The landing was rough but safe. Dust and ice erupted around the ship as it touched down, and Leela stepped onto the alien soil, her boots sinking slightly into the soft blue grass. The air was thin but breathable, carrying a faint metallic tang. It was beautiful, dangerous, and utterly alive. "Now to find out who sent that message," she whispered. From a distance, she saw a figure moving toward her. A man tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in worn leathers with a wide-brimmed hat shielding his face. His stride was steady, confident, and unafraid of the storms that still raged in the distance. Leela felt her pulse quicken. She had imagined many possibilities, but nothing quite like this. As he approached, the wind picked up again, tugging at her coat and hair. He lifted his head, revealing eyes that were calm, sharp, and honest. Jace. That was the name written in the message. Her heart told her she had found the right person, though they had never met. "You're Leela?" he asked, his voice carrying over the wind. It was rough, but there was warmth in it. "I am," she replied, offering a small smile. "And you must be Jace." He nodded, studying her with a mixture of caution and relief. "I prayed for someone like you," he said simply. "Someone who could handle this place. Someone human enough to survive here." Leela's lips curved into a faint smile. "And I suppose that's supposed to make me feel special." "It does," he replied. "Or maybe lucky, or both. Either way, you're here. That counts for something." They walked together toward the ranch house. The wind howled around them, but it no longer felt threatening. It felt like a test they were passing together. As they moved, Jace began to show her the land, pointing out the dangers of the terrain. Deep ice crevices, unstable cliffs, and creatures that were as beautiful as they were deadly. "You'll need to know all this if you're going to stay," he said. "Riven 7 doesn't forgive mistakes." "I can handle it," Leela replied. She had faced rogue storms and ship malfunctions before, and she was ready to face anything the planet threw at her. More than that, she was ready to prove herself, not just to him, but to herself. By the time they reached the house, the sky had cleared enough to reveal the twin moons rising over the horizon. The ranch was modest but sturdy, built with human ingenuity and reinforced with alien materials. Smoke from the chimney promised warmth and food, a rare comfort on a frontier planet. Inside, Leela was introduced to the small collection of livestock, genetically modified animals capable of surviving the harsh conditions, and the tools Jace had built to farm and defend the land. She felt a thrill of recognition. Humans could make life thrive anywhere. It was what she loved about frontier planets, the challenge, the chance to make something out of nothing. As the day turned to evening, the storm resumed in the distance, a reminder that Riven 7 was not a forgiving home, but Leela felt something inside her shift. She was here now, alive and ready to face whatever came next. For the first time in a long while, she felt that maybe the universe had a plan and maybe, just maybe, she was part of it. Jace watched her quietly, noting the way she moved, the way she examined every detail, the way she didn't flinch at the wind or the distant rumbles of thunder. He had prayed for someone strong, clever, unafraid, and now he realized he had found her. "You'll do," he said softly, more to himself than to her. Leela looked out the window at the alien horizon, feeling a strange mix of fear and excitement. She was far from home, on a world that could kill her if she made a single mistake. But she also felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. The adventure was just beginning, and somewhere deep in her heart, she knew that the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm of challenges, choices, and connections that awaited her. She had answered the message. And now there was no turning back. The next morning, Riven 7 woke with a strange quiet. The storm from the previous night had not completely passed, but the clouds had thinned enough to reveal the twin moons in a faint silver glow. Leela stood outside the small ranch house, watching the wind bend the blue grass like waves in an alien ocean. Her boots sank slightly into the soft, strange soil, and she felt the thrill of standing somewhere untouched by easy life. Jace approached, carrying a satchel of tools. His eyes were steady, showing the kind of calm that only someone who had lived through countless storms could possess. "Breakfast is simple," he said, setting the satchel down. "Protein blocks and fresh water. You'll need energy for today." Leela nodded, but she was already distracted. The storm clouds in the distance were growing darker again, swirling in strange patterns that no earthly storm had ever shown. It was as if the planet itself was alive, breathing, testing anyone who dared to live there. "Do storms like this happen often?" she asked. "All the time," Jace replied. "Riven 7 doesn't forgive mistakes. You get caught unprepared, you don't survive. That's the truth of it." Leela swallowed her apprehension and smiled. "Sounds like my kind of place." After a quick breakfast, Jace led her to her first real test of survival, the hover steed. Unlike Earth horses, This one was a sleek, metallic creature with reinforced legs and a small anti-gravity system to help it navigate the jagged terrain. It had a low hum like an engine with a pulse. You ride it like a horse, Jace explained, but it's faster, smarter, and much less forgiving. It can't think for you. Leela ran her hand over the cool metal. I've ridden enough mechanical mounts, she said. I think I can handle this one. Hours passed as Jace guided her across the fields. They rode through canyons and over icy cliffs, Leela learning quickly to read the subtle signals of the creature. When it sensed danger, when it struggled to maintain balance, when the storm would hit hardest. She marveled at the planet's raw beauty, the sharp cliffs, the blue grass that glimmered like water, and the strange, luminous insects that darted in the sky like living stars. By mid-afternoon, the storm returned in full force. Dark clouds rolled in faster than she had ever seen, carrying icy rain and gusts strong enough to knock a grown man off his feet. Lightning split the sky, striking dangerously close to their path. "Hold on," Jace shouted, tightening his grip on the reins. "The hover steeds can take it, but you need to trust them." Leela leaned forward, gripping the reins tightly. The wind tore at her coat and hair, but she held on, feeling the thrill of the storm through every fiber of her being. She realized that this was exactly why she had come, not just to meet the man who had prayed for her, but to challenge herself, to survive where others might fail. The hoversteed leapt over a deep fissure in the ground, and Leela felt her stomach lurch with the exhilaration. The rain stung her face, and lightning split the sky in a blinding flash. For a moment, she feared they would be thrown from the creature, but the training, instinct, and raw determination kept her steady. They arrived at a small cliffside overlooking the valley where Jace's ranch sat, battered but unbroken. From this height, the storm's full fury was clear. The valley below was a river of mud and ice, the wind howling like a living thing. Leela realized that surviving Riven 7 wasn't just about avoiding danger. It was about understanding it, respecting it, and acting faster than anyone or anything else. Jace dismounted and offered her a hand. She took it without hesitation. "Not bad for your first storm ride," he said with a rare smile. "Not bad," Leela laughed, shivering from cold and adrenaline. "I think we both deserve medals." He chuckled, but the moment passed quickly as a low, mechanical hum caught their attention. A rogue AI drone, one of the automated mining bots that often malfunctioned on the frontier, was speeding toward the ranch, its sensors scanning for anything alive to neutralize. "Move," Jace shouted. "They're programmed to be deadly if provoked." Leela felt her heart race. She knew she couldn't let it reach the livestock or the house. Using quick thinking, she scanned the terrain, spotting jagged rocks and uneven ground near a narrow ravine. "We can trap it," she yelled. Jace nodded, already understanding. Together, they maneuvered the hover steeds, leading the rogue drone toward the ravine. Leela's instincts kicked in. She ducked low, twisting the reins to guide the beast, while Jace used his knowledge of the land to block escape routes. The drone skidded on the icy rocks, miscalculating the terrain. With a final surge, Leela guided it straight into the ravine where it toppled and sparked, finally silent. They both exhaled deeply, hearts pounding. Leela realized this planet would test her in ways she had never imagined, but it also filled her with a fierce sense of pride. She had survived. She had thrived. By evening, the storm had passed, leaving the valley washed clean. Jace and Leela returned to the ranch house, wet but victorious. The fire in the hearth was a warm contrast to the icy plains outside. Leela sat by it, letting the heat seep into her bones, while Jace prepared a simple meal. "You handled today well," Jace said quietly. "Most people would have panicked, or worse, you didn't." "I didn't have time to panic," Leela replied with a grin. "I was too busy surviving." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "That's what I prayed for. Not someone who would come and cower, but someone who would stand. Someone human enough to face Riven 7 and make it bend to her will." Leela felt warmth spread in her chest, not from the fire, but from the rare acknowledgement. She had come to this strange planet, answering a mysterious message, and here she was, proving herself. And though she didn't yet fully understand Jace's prayers or his life, she felt the beginning of a connection, built not on words, but on shared survival and courage. The night grew deeper, and the twin moons shone over the valley, silver light reflecting off the blue grass. Leela stayed by the window for a long while, thinking about the future. She knew that Riven 7 would demand more skill, more courage, more endurance, and she was ready. For the first time, she didn't just feel like a visitor. She felt like a part of this place, a human among humans, shaping life where life seemed impossible. She understood something vital. The universe tested everyone differently, but it favored those who refused to give up, who met danger with courage and cleverness. As sleep claimed her, Leela dreamt not of home, but of storms and cliffs, hover steeds leaping over icy ravines, and the faint smile of a man who had prayed for her arrival. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew she was ready. Riven 7 was harsh, but humans were harsher, and humans could survive anything. The morning sun rose over Riven 7 with a pale, icy glow. The storm from the previous day had finally passed, leaving the blue grass shimmering with frost. Leela stepped outside the ranch house, stretching her arms and taking in the vast alien landscape. The world was silent except for the occasional hum of distant machinery, and for the first time, she felt she belonged. Jace emerged from the barn, wiping grease from his hands with a cloth. His clothes were worn, his boots caked with mud, and his face carried the permanent hint of windburn that came from years of living on the frontier. Yet despite his rugged exterior, there was a steadiness in his gaze, a quiet strength that immediately commanded respect. "You ready for today?" he asked. Leela nodded. "Absolutely. What's first?" He led her toward the small corral behind the house, where hover steeds grazed among the frost-covered grass. Today, she would meet the rest of the ranch's inhabitants, both animal and human. But Jace had a test in mind. Not a formal one, not written in rules, but a challenge designed to show whether she could truly handle life here. "Out here," Jace began, "everything is a test. Weather, terrain, predators. Even the machines we build can betray us. You've got to be ready for all of it. That's what living on Riven 7 means." Leela listened carefully. She had faced storms, rogue drones, and dangerous terrain. But this was different. This was about understanding a world that didn't forgive mistakes. She felt a surge of determination. She had come here to prove herself, not just to Jace, but to herself. They began with the hover steeds, riding toward a distant ridge where the terrain became jagged and rocky. Leela was surprised at how naturally she handled the creature, adjusting her balance as it navigated icy patches and steep inclines. Jace watched quietly, noting how she reacted to unexpected shifts and sudden gusts of wind. She did not panic, did not hesitate. She adapted. At the ridge, the view took her breath away. The valley stretched far below, dotted with strange metallic structures and pools of frozen water that reflected the twin moons in the sky. But beauty came with danger. Ice-covered cliffs dropped hundreds of feet, and jagged rocks jutted out like teeth. "This is where you really see what Riven 7 can do," Jace said, his voice low. "People come here thinking they can tame it, but the land doesn't care. You have to learn it, respect it, or you don't last." Leela nodded. "I get it. It's not about fighting the planet, it's about moving with it." "Exactly," he replied. "You understand already. That's good." The real test began when they descended into a narrow canyon. Hidden dangers were everywhere. Icy patches, loose rocks, and even alien wildlife that blended perfectly into the terrain. Leela relied on her instincts, guiding the hoversteed carefully while Jace followed behind, occasionally pointing out subtle hazards. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the canyon wall. A creature, larger than any earth predator with glimmering scales and long limbs, lunged toward them. Its eyes were intelligent, calculating, and its movements quick. Leela's heart pounded. She had trained for dangerous situations, but this was real, immediate, and alive. "Steady," Jace shouted. "Don't make sudden moves." Leela pulled the reins just enough to dodge the creature's strike, then nudged the hoversteed forward. They weaved through the canyon, using narrow passages and jagged rocks to their advantage. The creature followed, but it could not match the speed and agility of the humans and their mount. Finally, with a clever maneuver, Leela and Jace led it into a natural trap, a rocky alcove that allowed only a narrow escape route. The creature hesitated, then retreated, disappearing into the shadows. They dismounted, breathing hard but triumphant. Leela felt a thrill of accomplishment. This was no simulation, no test in a controlled environment. She had faced a living danger and she had survived. "You handled that well," Jace said, clapping her shoulder. "Most people would have panicked. You didn't." "That's what I like to see." Leela smiled, though her heart was still racing. "It's all about staying calm and thinking ahead." They continued their journey toward the ranch, and as they rode, Jace began to share his story. He had been alone for years, tending the land, praying quietly for someone strong enough to join him. He had written countless messages, never expecting anyone to answer until Layla had appeared. "I prayed for someone human," he said, his voice quiet. "Someone clever, brave, and unafraid. And now here you are. I didn't think it would actually happen." Leela felt a warmth she couldn't explain. She had come to the frontier seeking adventure and purpose, and she had found it, not just in the land, but in a connection with another human being who understood the same values she held dear: courage, ingenuity, and determination. When they returned to the ranch, the day was ending. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the frozen fields. Leela helped Jace with chores, tending to livestock, checking mechanical systems, and reinforcing fences against the harsh weather. She noticed how methodical he was, every action precise, every tool in its place. She realized that surviving Riven 7 wasn't just about strength, it was about attention, planning, and intelligence. By evening, the work was done, and they sat together outside, watching the twin moons rise over the horizon. Silence stretched between them, comfortable and unforced. Leela felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in years. She had arrived on a strange planet, answered a mysterious call, survived storms and alien dangers, and now sat with the man who had prayed for her. "Do you ever get lonely out here?" she asked softly. "Every day," Jace admitted. "But it teaches you patience, resilience. It teaches you what matters." "And what matters to you?" Leela asked, curious. He looked at her, eyes reflecting the silver light of the moons. "Survival, growth, connection. Humans thrive when they face challenges and overcome them. That's why I prayed, not for someone perfect, but for someone human, someone who could rise to the challenge." Leela felt a shiver of understanding. She had always believed that humans were capable of remarkable things, but here, on a distant world with storms, cliffs, and creatures that could kill at any moment, it was undeniable. Humanity's strength wasn't just in technology or weapons, it was in courage, creativity, and the will to survive against impossible odds. The night grew colder, but the warmth between them persisted. Leela realized that this partnership, between her and Jace, between humans and the harsh land, was built on mutual respect and shared struggle. She felt a surge of determination to prove herself further, to face the frontier with every ounce of strength she had. "Tomorrow," Jace said, breaking the silence, "we start the real work. There's much to do if we're going to thrive here." Leela nodded, her eyes shining with anticipation. "I'm ready. Whatever comes, I'll face it." He studied her again, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "That's good, because Riven 7 won't give us a moment's peace. But humans survive. And when we work together, there's nothing we can't handle." She looked out over the ranch, the fields glimmering under the moonlight. For the first time, she truly understood what Jace had meant. The frontier was dangerous, unforgiving, and unpredictable, but it was alive. And humans with courage, intelligence, and heart could not just survive, it could thrive. As she lay down to sleep that night, Leela felt a deep sense of purpose. She had come to Riven 7 for adventure, but she had found something more. A chance to prove the strength of humanity, the value of courage, and the meaning of connection. She knew the days ahead would be filled with challenges, storms, and dangers beyond imagination. But she also knew she was ready. For the first time, she wasn't just answering a mysterious message. She was answering the call of the frontier itself, a call to survive, to thrive, and to rise to every challenge. And as the twin moons shone over the frozen fields, Leela realized something profound. Humanity could endure anything. Storms, creatures, isolation, none of it mattered. Because humans were clever, brave, and unafraid. And she, here on Riven 7, would prove it. The morning sun barely pierced through the lingering clouds over Riven 7. The twin moons had long disappeared, leaving the frost-covered valley in pale light. Leela and Jace were already up, tending to the ranch, checking the livestock and reinforcing the fences. The storm from yesterday had left the ground icy and slippery, and every step required careful attention. "This land never sleeps," Jace muttered as he checked a mechanical fence post. "Neither do the dangers." Leela nodded, examining the newly repaired hoversteed pens. She had grown used to the unpredictable weather, the jagged cliffs, and the alien wildlife, but she sensed today would bring a challenge beyond ordinary survival. It started as a faint hum in the distance. At first, it was barely noticeable, blending with the wind that swept across the plains. But then Leela felt it in her chest, a vibration that made the air feel heavy. Her hand instinctively went to the pulse blaster strapped at her side, a precaution she had insisted on bringing despite Jace's reassurance that the land's dangers were mostly natural. Jace looked up from his work, his eyes narrowing. "That's not a storm," he said. "Something else." Leela followed his gaze. Far across the plains, a group of sleek black ships appeared, glinting in the pale light. They moved swiftly, almost silently, and their purpose was clear. These were raiders, not settlers. Human-shaped machines and armed exosuits glinted on the decks, scanning the land for life to plunder. "They're coming for us," Leela said calmly, though her heart raced. Jace's jaw tightened. "We've been ready for this. Follow my lead and stay sharp." Without hesitation, they ran to the ranch house, gathering tools, barricades, and anything that could be used for defense. Leela checked the weapons she had stashed: pulse blasters, net launchers, and energy grenades designed to disable machines without causing permanent harm. She had learned early that surviving Riven 7 didn't require killing. It required smart choices and human ingenuity. The raiders reached the perimeter, their ships hovering low and scanning. From the ground, they deployed small attack drones, buzzing like angry insects, seeking weakness in the ranch's defenses. Leela and Jace moved with practiced precision, setting traps and luring the drones toward reinforced barriers. With a pulse from her blaster, Leela disabled a drone mid-flight, watching sparks fly as it collapsed. "Good shot," Jace said, ducking behind a barricade as another drone swooped toward them. "Keep moving. Don't give them a predictable target." They used the terrain to their advantage, leading the drones into the narrow canyon where the cliffs acted as natural choke points. Leela guided her hoversteed with perfect timing, dodging attacks while Jace directed reinforcements, using ropes, nets, and mechanical traps. The raiders were clever, but they weren't human. They couldn't anticipate improvisation, the split-second decisions that Leela and Jace made together. Hours passed in a blur of motion. Energy pulses lit the valley, drones clashed with mechanical traps, and the raiders struggled to breach the ranch's defenses. Leela felt the familiar rush of determination and adrenaline. She had come to Riven 7 to survive storms, to face unknown creatures, and now she was defending her home, proving not only her strength but her humanity. During a brief lull, she caught her breath and watched Jace. He moved calmly, giving commands, repairing damaged equipment, and never showing fear. His strength wasn't just physical, it was his ability to think, adapt, and stay focused under pressure. She realized why he had prayed for someone human. He understood that survival depended on both courage and intelligence, and together they were unstoppable. The raiders regrouped and launched a final attack, sending a larger drone equipped with a laser cutter to breach the main fence. Leela quickly assessed the situation. "We can't let it reach the livestock," she shouted. "Use the ice patches." Jace understood immediately. They maneuvered the creature over the frozen ground, causing it to skid uncontrollably. Leela fired her pulse blaster to disrupt its sensors, while Jace activated a mechanical trap that sent the drone tumbling into a pit designed to capture rogue machines. Sparks flew as it collided with the walls, and silence followed. The remaining raiders realized their attack had failed. Their ships rose, retreating toward the horizon, leaving behind a valley filled with the echoes of battle. Leela and Jace stood among the wreckage, breathing heavily but victorious. "You did well," Jace said, clapping her shoulder. "Most people wouldn't have lasted this long. You handled every challenge perfectly." Leela smiled, though she was exhausted. "We handled it together." He nodded, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "Yes, together." The storm clouds returned in the distance, a reminder that Riven 7 never rested. But tonight, the valley was quiet, the twin moons reflecting off the blue grass, and the ranch stood strong. Leela realized something important. Human strength wasn't just about brute force or technology. It was about courage, creativity, and working as one. After securing the ranch and checking on the hover steeds, they sat by the fire in the ranch house, warmth spreading through their cold bones. Leela looked out the window at the valley below, still scattered with remnants of the battle, and felt a sense of accomplishment unlike any she had known. "Do you ever get used to this?" she asked softly, still watching the horizon. Jace shook his head. "No, you never do. But you learn to face it. You learn to respect it. That's how humans survive here." "And we survived," Leela said with quiet pride. "Yes," he agreed. "Humans survive, and when we work together there's nothing we can't face." They sat in silence, listening to the wind outside, feeling the bond that had grown between them. The day had tested their skills, their courage, and their resolve, and they had passed. Night fell over the valley, the twin moons casting silver light across the frost-covered grass. Leela lay in her bunk, thinking about the events of the day. The raiders had tested them, but they had prevailed because of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. She realized that these were not just survival traits, they were the essence of humanity. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, repairs, hunting for food, and the ongoing struggle to make life thrive on this harsh planet. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had faced the impossible and emerged stronger. Riven 7 was harsh, unforgiving, and alive. But humans, Leela realized, could bend the impossible with courage, creativity, and heart. She closed her eyes, ready to rest, knowing that the frontier would always demand more, but that humans, her and Jace, could meet those demands. As sleep claimed her, she dreamt not of danger, but of triumph, teamwork, and the strength of the human spirit. She knew the storm outside was nothing compared to the storms ahead in life, but she was ready. She had found purpose, partnership, and a chance to prove that humans could survive and thrive anywhere. The twin moons shone over the ranch, silver light reflecting off the frost and the wreckage of the battle. For the first time, Leela understood fully what Jace had prayed for. Not protection, not magic, not perfection. But a human strong enough to rise, clever enough to survive, and brave enough to face the frontier's challenges. And now she was here, living that reality. The morning sun rose slowly over Riven 7, painting the frost-covered plains in soft shades of silver and blue. The twin moons had vanished beyond the horizon, leaving the valley bathed in warm light. For the first time in weeks, the ranch was quiet, not silent, but alive in the peaceful rhythm of daily life. Leela stood outside, brushing frost from the hover steeds' backs. She had grown accustomed to the rhythm of the frontier, the careful attention required to maintain life on this harsh planet. Her hands moved with practiced ease, and her heart carried a quiet pride. She had arrived on Riven 7 a stranger, answering a mysterious message. Now she was part of its life, part of its challenges, and part of something far larger than herself. Jace emerged from the ranch house, carrying a satchel of supplies for the day's work. He paused, studying her as she tended the hover steeds. There was a calm in his expression, a quiet approval that only came from years of survival and understanding. "You're ready for today?" he asked, his voice steady, yet carrying a warmth that made her smile. "I am," Leela replied. "What's first?" Jace pointed toward the northern cliffs. "We need to expand the irrigation system. The ice storms damaged part of the channels. If we don't fix them, the livestock won't have enough water." Leela nodded. "Let's get started." Together, they made their way to the northern cliffs. The terrain was rugged, and the wind carried a cold bite that cut through their clothing. But they moved efficiently, working side by side, lifting pipes, repairing channels, and reinforcing supports. Every task required thought, ingenuity, and careful coordination. As they worked, Jay spoke. "I've seen many come and go," he said quietly. "People who think they can survive here, but Riven 7 has a way of showing them who's ready. You're ready. Not just for the storms or the creatures, but for life itself on this planet." Leela felt a warmth spread in her chest. She had survived storms, battled rogue drones, and defended the ranch against raiders. But these words carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just about survival. It was about recognition, about understanding that humans could thrive even in the harshest conditions. They paused for a moment, surveying the valley below. The blue grass swayed gently in the wind, and the ranch stood strong, a testament to human effort and determination. Leela realized that the frontier was more than a challenge, it was an opportunity. An opportunity to prove that humans were clever, resilient, and capable of turning even the harshest world into a home. Suddenly, a low hum carried across the valley. Leela's hand instinctively went to her pulse blaster, though she sensed no immediate danger. Jace, too, tensed slightly, scanning the horizon. But as the sound grew, it became clear it wasn't hostile. It was another message, transmitted across the planet's communication network. Jace tapped a small device on his wrist, decoding the signal. A small colony of settlers in a distant valley had sent a request for assistance. Their irrigation system had collapsed under the weight of ice, and they needed guidance. "We could help them," Jace said, looking at Leela. "Show them how to repair the channels, secure their livestock, survive the storms." Leela's eyes sparkled. "We can. It's exactly what we're good at." Together, they prepared the hover steeds and supplies, setting out across the plains toward the distant settlement. The journey was long, but their experience on Riven 7 gave them confidence. They navigated the icy patches, rocky inclines, and hidden crevices with ease. Along the way, Leela taught Jace small tricks she had learned during her travels, and he shared his knowledge of the planet's quirks and dangers. By the time they arrived at the settlement, the sun was high in the sky. The colony was small but struggling, its water channels blocked by ice and debris. Settlers moved with urgency, worried about the approaching storm predicted by their sensors. Leela and Jace wasted no time. They quickly assessed the situation, identifying weak points in the irrigation system and instructing the settlers on how to reinforce the channels. Leela demonstrated clever techniques to manage water flow, while Jace organized teams to lift and secure pipes. "Humans can adapt to anything," Jace told the settlers. "We survive by thinking, planning, and working together. Riven 7 is harsh, but it can be tamed if you respect it." Leela added, "It's not just about brute force. It's about clever solutions, quick thinking, and teamwork. Humans are strong, and together, there's nothing we can't do." By evening, the irrigation system was repaired, livestock secured, and the settlers breathing easier. They had survived not just because of machines or technology, but because of human determination and ingenuity. Leela felt a swell of pride. This was why she had come to Riven 7, not just to survive, but to help others survive, to prove the strength of humanity in the most challenging environments. As they prepared to leave, the settlement leader approached them. "I've never seen anything like this," he said, awe in his voice. "You two humans, you make this planet feel possible." Leela smiled. "Humans thrive anywhere," she said simply. "You just need courage, cleverness, and heart." Jace nodded in agreement. Riven 7 is harsh, but it teaches something important. Nothing survives without effort. And humans can endure anything. They returned to the ranch as the twin moons rose again, silver light reflecting across the frost-covered valley. Leela felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had answered the mysterious message, survived storms, battled raiders, and helped others. She realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just survival. It was the ability to rise, adapt, and thrive in even the harshest conditions. That night she and Jace sat outside the ranch house, sharing a quiet meal by the fire. The valley was calm, the only sound the gentle sway of the blue grass in the wind. Leela looked at Jace, realizing how much they had achieved together. They were not just surviving, they were shaping the frontier, proving that humans could carve life from any world. "I never expected to find this," Leela said softly. "Not just the adventure, but this, purpose, partnership, hope." Jace studied her quietly, then nodded. "It was more than I prayed for," he admitted. "I asked for someone human, someone clever, brave, and unafraid. But I got more than that. I got a partner who makes life here possible." Leela felt a warmth she couldn't describe. It wasn't just about survival or adventure. It was about connection, understanding, and shared courage. She realized that this frontier, with all its storms, dangers, and challenges, had also given her something rare, a place where humanity could shine, where cleverness and heart mattered more than anything else. The night grew colder, but the fire between them burned brightly. They spoke little, content in the knowledge that together they had faced the frontier and proven themselves. Leela thought about the future, expanding the ranch, helping other settlements, and facing storms with confidence. She knew challenges would come, but she also knew they could be overcome, not by luck, but by human courage, ingenuity, and determination. As sleep claimed her, Leela dreamed not of danger but of possibility. The twin moons cast silver light over the valley, the blue grass swaying in the gentle wind. She imagined new settlements rising, new challenges faced with clever solutions, and humans thriving on a world that had once seemed impossible. Jace watched the horizon, thinking the same. His prayers had been answered, not with someone perfect, but with someone human, strong enough to meet the challenges of Riven 7 and clever enough to thrive. Together, they had turned a harsh, unforgiving planet into a place of possibility, a testament to the power of humanity. Morning came again, and the valley awoke under the pale light of the rising sun. Leela and Jace moved among their livestock, repaired fences, and prepared the ranch for another day. The storms would come, as they always did, and challenges would continue to rise. But now they faced them not as strangers but as partners, as humans capable of surviving and thriving in even the harshest conditions. Leela realized something profound. The frontier was more than survival. It was a test of humanity's strength, ingenuity, and courage. And humans, clever, brave, and determined, would always rise to meet it. Riven 7 was harsh, but humans were harsher. They could bend the impossible with cleverness, courage, and heart. And here, on this distant world, Leela and Jace had proven it. Together they would build a future, one of hope, perseverance, and human triumph. The twin moons shone overhead, silver light reflecting off the frost and the blue grass, marking the dawn of a new chapter. The frontier was vast, the challenges endless, but humanity had found a home, and in that home, strength, cleverness, and courage would always prevail. And so, under the twin moons of Riven 7, Leela and Jace looked toward the horizon, ready to face the future together. For humans, the impossible was just the beginning.